Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee or a delicious menu item while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Come by and say hello to Maui. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com. And there are three things that I love to have in my comics: babes, gore, and dinosaurs. Now, if you could ever find a combination that brings all three of those together, you would have yourself a smash bang hit on your hands. And wait a minute. I think we've got it. I think we've got something here. And appropriately enough, it's called Babes, Gore, and Dinosaurs from Dustin Brunell. Dustin, how you doing tonight?
How are you, sir? I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Glad to do it. So, wow. Talk about being on the nose. I don't even have to ask what this book is about. It's just like, hey, here's what's in the page. There's none of this, artistic, death by fire. Like, what's that mean? What's going to happen here?
Right. Absolutely. The title, I wanted something that was easy, you know what I mean, and spoke for itself. And it didn't need to be so long, but it rolled right off the tongue. You know what I mean? It sounded good. And then even when you abbreviate it like BGD, it's easy to say, so, but yeah, definitely says what it is. I enjoy that about that. I like being honest when you come to my books.
So this is how do these things come together? I mean, there were no people in the time of the dinosaurs. The Flintstones the Flintstones is a lie, sir.
I liked Flintstones. I was a huge fan. I was a huge fan of a lot of really cool stuff in the 80s. Dinosaur wise, all the different shows and stuff that we used to get, We're Back, and well, that was 90s, but We're Back, we had Denver the Last Dinosaur. There was a lot of really, really good stuff. A lot of that came from, though, to me, you get the Ninja Turtle stuff, the anthropomorphic stuff, the street sharks and whatnot. Always enjoyed that as a kid. And with BGD being my third IP, I wanted to branch out and go to what I really, really enjoyed reading about. You know what I mean? And then when my buddy Jim Noble with Totally Rad Comics was like, hey, man, you want to do a book for me? I was like, sweet, So we definitely had to add the babes because it was totally rad. So I was all about it. It was a lot of fun, though. A lot of fun putting it together.
So you've got a familiar looking logo here.
Yes, absolutely. So Jurassic Park was one of my favorite series ever, favorite book series as a kid. And when we were coming up with it, I was talking to Blade and Hunter about what we should do for trade dress. But the trade dress that came first was actually Steph Wilson's. He did a really fun one, because his covers are really fun. So he did a fun one that's almost just like that, but it's like more Jurassic Park, less Babes, Gore, Dinosaurs. You know what I mean? But it's really fun. But this one, we wanted to take you back to that familiar feeling that you got, but also be different. You know what I mean? Just be different, but fun at the same time. So the logo was a great way for us to show people that we respected what we were showing you guys. And it's very important. I wouldn't put out something I didn't think was going to be really fun with something that looked so traditional.
Well, the silhouette logo here looks like it combines the babes and the dinosaurs. You've got dinosaur babes.
Absolutely.
And what's the age limit on this book?
So it's 18 and up.
Okay.
The Kickstarter is safe. Everything is edited on my Kickstarter, just so you're aware. But yeah, it is 18 and up, and I flirt with the, the risque and stuff like that. I don't get into the mature content just yet in this book, but it's fun. There's the, our main character owns a gentleman's club, so there's plenty to be seen, while you're there. But it's about a retired mercenary that opens a gentleman's club. It's in his later years. He's ready to chill out. He's tired of the nonsense. In fact, the bar is actually called Piece of Tail.
He just wants to sit around and look at boobs all day long now.
That's it, man. That's it. You can't go wrong with that, right?
That's the life.
It's not bad. It's not a bad one to have. But yeah, we introduced a bunch of fun characters. And the biggest deal is we get a new employee in this issue, and she brings all kinds of trouble. So and she's a long-lasting character. She's going to be around a long time. She's great, well-written, super fun. But I don't want to give away too much. You know what I mean? Because it's a lot deeper than the title gives away. So.
All right. Well, I would hope so. The title gives quite a bit there.
For sure.
Got an active chat here. James Hayes. Well, hello, RJ, Mr. Brunell, everyone hanging around chat. I hope that you're doing good and feeling well. I am. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And Bap2 is in the chat. Haven't seen you in a while, man. Hope things are picking up for you there. Haven't heard from you in a while. Notice, and again, your absence is noticed. So
that's how you know you're a good member of the chat, when your absence is noticed, for sure.
Absolutely. So take us into this world. This is the future. This is the future with dinosaurs. Where'd the dinosaurs come from? Or are they just kind of
we have it's very Blade Runner meets dinosaurs. It's like my take on cyberpunk, in that genre. We've got big cityscapes. The main story takes place in a giant metropolis that's cut into 4 sections. Right now we just happen to be in Center City, and it's very dark. It's, not the best side of town, but people make do, and they find joy where they can, Dinosaurs came about, the Saurians come about in an apocalyptic event that we as humans create. We're messing around with things a little bit too much, and then there are certain laws that are broken, conventions and whatnot. And then, we get our first couple of dinosaurs, saurian individuals. And then a couple hundred years into the future, this is where we're at. Day to day.
So this is your new character that you're introducing?
So that's Maya.
I guess they're all new characters right now, but
yeah. We have it's 6 first appearances in this book for characters that are ongoing. This is an ongoing series, 24-page full color. The next issue comes out in January. And the reason that is it would come out sooner, but I do all my books bi-monthly. So I have 2 other books that come out before this book comes out.
And you're doing these all crowdfunding?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Well, I paid for them first. To be fair, I invested and am paying myself back with crowdfunding, basically.
Okay.
So it's pretty
I've seen that done, but only rarely. Like Miskatonic High is up to they're crowdfunding their 12th issue, and they maintain a quarterly cycle. But but like you, I think not only are they paying for it first, but they started with 5 issues done before they launched their first one.
For sure. I didn't have that when I started. I had scripts for 30 of my first book when I started, and we went from there. It was really cool how accepting people were and how interested people were in the product. So, the fans that we gained and the friends that we gained on the way, and we just kept trugging ahead.
Now, is this a pinup of Maya, or is this a Pendleton book?
That is a pinup of Maya. Maya is our maitre d'. She's, for those of you that don't know, she's that kind of lingo. She's our like manager. She handles all the female client and stuff like that in the book.
Looks like she just kicked a bunch of dino tail.
She did. She's also a mercenary herself. She retired with Ricky. And there's a real cool issue 0 that we're doing with her backstory and his backstory in the coming months. Yeah, she's not one I would mess with.
And now this looks more like a panel.
So yeah, that is. Those are 3 different panels I pulled from the book, so you guys could get an idea of what Eve looks like. Eve is what we call a tank bred, and it's almost like a slur when you call somebody a tank bred in our book, because what they are is they're legitimately spliced individuals. For sure, Bap. I will definitely be putting those out. If you pick up the first one, you guys will get up to date news on the second one and whatnot. But tank breds being literally genetically modified and created for an individual, and it gets outlawed in our series. So she's here looking for a job is basically what we gain right now. That's what we're getting in the book right now. She's here to find a job and employment. That piece of tail.
Yep. And I'm curious. Well, I'm gonna have to read the story to find out, how these dinosaurs came out in a humanoid form instead of in their dinosaur form.
Absolutely. It's very interesting because there's actually a cover where we fool around with it going on down in the Kickstarter that's done by Jen Leonard. It's an homage to Dennis Nedry and the baby raptor scene, which didn't have Dennis Nedry in it, but it was a fun scene where they were looking at the eggs in the genetic lab, and we're building off a lot of those little dudes. It's easy to use those nuances, and they're fun to show people. Like people created this. And then there's a joke out right now that we put out, and it's actually going to be a T-shirt. It's got a couple of our female characters on it, and then it says, God created man, man created saurians, saurians killed man, women inherit the earth. So yeah, it's just fun. It's a very dark book, super dark. Verse with we go into gang violence, we go into things like kidnappings. It's up there, man. It's very top shelf when it comes to storytelling.
Well, that would be where the gore comes in.
Absolutely.
You do get the warning. It's right there.
Fair warning. It's there. It is definitely there. It is so much fun, though, when you get like-minded individuals together to put a story together and it comes out exactly how you imagine seeing it. There's a page below this down there that's actually showing how the concepts come together for one of the pages.
I'm looking at this silhouette and already I'm thinking, what would be cool?
By all means, man, tell me.
Advertise piece of tail, and then girls, babes, gore, and dinosaurs. But do the silhouette in the trucker mud flap pose, only with the dinosaur head. And then just like make a T-shirt or actually even cut it out of metal and put it on something.
Oh man, we have so many cool things in the pipeline for this that it's ridiculous. Like the postcard. The postcard is one of the coolest things. Like we're working on it right now, actually, and it's so much fun. It's literally we're personalizing them almost to everyone. So we've got like 5 different versions that are going to come out, signed by different girls at the bar with lipstick kisses on them, all kinds of just really fun stuff.
So do dinosaurs have scaly lips?
When I find out about that, I'll let you know. I had another question we'll talk about in the green room that surprised me. So, yeah.
I'll hang out after the show.
People are curious, man. People are curious, and I'm good for it.
Yeah. This is a Kickstarter, Mr. Yanafui. So, and we are, that we ran the story. So yes, we are quite aware of Kickstarter in the news lately. I don't mean we turn away people who have chosen to use Kickstarter to come on our show and talk.
Right on. I don't keep up with the news at all, to be frank.
That keeps you sane.
Yeah, I literally I'm like tunnel vision to work, man. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
I said, I have 3 IPs that are constantly running, so it's like I just work and enjoy it.
Do that and promote them and do nothing more, because otherwise it'll be like 2 years between books. Otherwise you get sucked into that rabbit hole.
No, sir. I'm good for that. Definitely just I enjoy putting out good content for people.
So I'm definitely getting the Blade Runner
Yep.
feel from the neon and the alleyways here.
Yes, sir.
And the other thing I like is the people all look different, even though we're the same species. You have different species of dinosaur running around, so it's not like, hey, we fooled around with a velociraptor egg, and now we've got all these velociraptor people. Yeah, somebody went for variety, and like, let's try one of these. Let's give me 2 of those, one of those.
Well, it boils down to the fact that they felt like they needed their own nationalities and their own groups of people. So there become charters and stuff that push this going forward. And that's going to be a really fun story arc that we're going to put out. It's a 3-issue miniseries about how it all started, where it all began. So I'm really excited about that as well.
Now I'm seeing the pictures I'm seeing look like they're almost all dinosaur dancers.
So when you get into the actual bar, they're not. They're humans and saurians as well. There's definitely different types. There's a pterodactyl that works at the bar. There's Brachiosaurus that works at the bar. There's all kinds of characters. One thing that we make sure that we do is we flush them out. You're not going to see, like, 2 issues down the road, you're still going to see a barista or a bartender that was there previously. We're not going to leave you hanging or just throw characters in to be throwing them in there.
Sure.
There's also villains in our story that show up later on that are having drinks in the background issues before, and you'll get to see them. It's a lot of fun. It's just an interesting way to tell stories, whereas I never want you to expect what I'm giving you out of any book I put out.
Yeah. Well, see, a lot of this is reminding me of an old television series that I like, based off of a movie that I didn't care for, but I liked the TV series, Alien Nation.
Alien Nation was great.
I love that show, and there was so much in there about the potential and the risks and the hurdles of interspecies relationships.
Yep.
And I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, so if it's a mix of dancers, you're going to have a mix of clientele, and
right.
It doesn't necessarily mean that the human watchers are going to be there to watch human dancers.
That's absolutely a fact. That's one of the things we touch on. I mentioned the book is dark, and it's very cerebral. As much fun and as beautiful as it is, we coined the term "darkly beautiful" for our book. There are people that don't like the fact that there are human women and male dinosaurians together, and vice versa. There are people that don't like it,
because of the new form of miscegenation laws.
Right. It's a big deal, in our series, but at the same time, you have people that don't care. You know what I mean? It's not a problem to them. And then you've got the people that, if it's not about me, I don't care, and that's fine. You're not hurting anybody doing your own business. That turns into a huge arc in our book, actually, about a male saurian married to a human female. Very interesting stuff, because it gets really dark, and it takes you to a place that you wouldn't expect it to take you.
So I'm just kind of scrolling down to look at the covers here.
Absolutely.
Now this is you said you get these done already in advance, so this is a complete book. You're going to press as soon as you're done.
Absolutely. Yes. As soon as the Kickstarter funds come in, it goes to print.
Gotcha. And I haven't even looked at the tiers yet, but it's okay. So this is cover A, which would be the Blade and Hunter cover.
Yes, sir.
And that's $15. Is shipping built into that, or is shipping extra?
Shipping is not built into it, just due to the fact that I am that guy that wants to send you the book and it come just right. So it's, in the Geminis, it's taken care of. I think we've got $7 is what's on those. And I don't like media mail, and I found a lot of customers don't like it. So because things have disappeared, I mean, no lie, it's disappeared in media mail, and then USPS is like, whatever, we don't know where it is. So I normally charge just that little bit above to get you guys the next tier of shipping. So we have a tracking number and all that jazz, so we don't have to worry about it.
Well, you can get tracking with media because I do it all the time.
Oh, wow. See, they don't even want me shipping media because they're like, it's comic books, and they tear my stuff open. So.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that happening to people. And it's a shame when postmasters don't know their own postal regulations.
Right, because it doesn't have ads in it or anything, so it should
exactly.
be fine. But
it's a graphic novel, and I'm prepared to argue that with anybody. Yeah. And if they open it up and they say, "Well, yeah, but it's got a print in it," I'm like, "You're allowed to have first class, inserts with a media mail packet." I'm all over that regulation.
Well, with what you do, you have to be, for sure. But yeah, we go just enough to get you guys the actual tier of shipping above that. So I think it's $7 that we do, and we do that the whole country. Inside the U.S. gets $7, and we do international sales as well for that. But we do our international at generally 25. I pay a lot more than 25, but we normally do it at 25. Just to be fair, because we want to make sure people can get the books, period. You know what I mean? It's like, well, you know how that's like trying to ship overseas and stuff is.
Yeah. And then if you send it to Europe, you got to worry about the VAT as well on top of that.
Yeah, it's got to sit, same thing if you send to like New Zealand. When I send to the artists over in New Zealand, they literally have to wait, like it's weeks before they get their stuff. Yeah, even if they live down the way from the post office, they still have to wait weeks. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I think it has to sit in quarantine now.
Oh yeah, for sure. That makes sense.
And I probably did that even before we were in a global pandemic.
Right on.
Okay, so this is cover B and cover C, and there's a subtle difference.
Mm-hmm. Just a subtle one.
Just a subtle one here.
And that's
this is a fantasy book, folks.
She's super fun. She lives here in Tennessee as well. Great individual. We're actually doing a book signing next month together, so I'm excited about that. At a local shop in Chattanooga, so that'd be cool.
So I see the $15 for cover B here. I'm going to guess it further down as the cover C for it's an upcharge because it's
it's $5 more for the NSFW variants.
It makes sense. It's a special especially one, and we have the NSFW variant Steph Wilson version. I've not seen Steph do the adult stuff before, but.
Yep, he does a couple of them for us. He's actually got he's on all of my books going forward, so it'll be a lot of fun to see the different stuff he does.
So if you like the Steph Wilson stuff, look. Not only is it missing, but you can see where she's tossed it to the side.
It was a fun one. He has great ideas, man. Like I love working with our team because I don't direct covers, generally speaking. It's really cool to when we bring on an artist to let their talent shine. So, a lot of fun.
This April Reyna cover. This is nicely drawn.
She's incredible. Her original art is also available on the Kickstarter. So that's a lot of fun.
But we got covers. Covers keep coming.
Well, so Totally Rad. If you're a fan, Totally Rad Comics. They normally do 16 to 20 covers at a minimum per book they put out. And with this being my first publication for them, they wanted to make sure that I put out enough covers. So I said, okay, challenge accepted. So I put together a great team of artists to put out awesome covers. Oh, and that's the angry the angry artist, William Russell, great guy.
What did I do wrong? Okay. Oh, Steph did cover D and E.
Mm-hmm. And then April did F. She didn't do 2. She did 1.
Right. And okay, so there's another Steph Wilson, a park variant cover. Okay. Yep. Now I see it.
Yes, sir. That was a lot of fun for us. That was the one I was talking about. He put his own trade dress on that I thought was just super cute. So we were like, whenever you do a cover and you want to run the trade dress, use that one when you put it on there. Super talented group of people. And you've got the Trevor Grace coming up next. He's a Totally Rad artist that we brought over. Great guy. And that's being colored right now, actually.
Yeah. And if you haven't figured out by now, folks, this is an adult book.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would not let my children read my book. Not this particular book, anyway.
Yeah. Did you ever read Omaha the Cat Dancer?
I have an entire run of well, I think it's called season for that book, but yeah, I have 1 and 2 upstairs. Great stuff, man. A little bit more, much more mature than my book gets into, though. I don't anywhere near drop in that rabbit hole the way that particular book does. It goes a little bit further.
It's been on quite a while.
It's a great book. I mean, incredible book. It's very popular in certain sects and stuff. So I definitely don't want to get rid of my sets because eventually it'll be something real special. Eventually, when people.
I don't think you could replace it if you did. I've not seen it reprinted in any form.
No, sir. Not that I'm aware of. Great book series, though. I mean, it begs the question. Like we bring up very heavy topics, like can you fall in love with an AI? That's a big deal in our book because being a cyberpunk type of book, we have artificial intelligence. Can you fall in love with it?
That's in this book.
Absolutely. So
that's a third variant now of I almost said species, but I guess sentient.
Yep, sentient life forms. There's a lot more than meets the eye in the book. I just thought that giving you guys an idea with the title would be fun. Because those are things I like to read about. So if I let you know ahead of time, this is what you're getting, you'll enjoy it, And then the Joel Salza, that's a good one. Oh, there's April with her cover.
Well, that's the original art that's available.
Yes, sir.
And okay, so we saw all these tiers here. These are the nude variants for the $5 more.
Yep. And then you get down into the metals and stuff like that, and the combinations for Steph Wilson and the combo covers.
Oh, okay. So there's no real picture of that because how would you show it on the screen?
Right.
So a lot of those, the non-nude variants, the non-nude versions have foil covers.
Yes, sir. They all have foils. There are every book that we have has a foil and a metal cover.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
If you choose one or the other, they're definitely available. And then as you go further down, there's sets. For $100, you can get like the sets of regular foil and metal for each of the books.
Yeah, because metal is, we talked about that earlier, expensive and heavy.
It is, and gaining popularity by the day. And I think it's really cool. I
heard somebody say they wanted to do an all-metal comic. I'm like, go with God.
Yeah, well, I mean, the system with that and gluing it to the pages and stuff, I'm not saying it would be impossible. But all my books are printed in cardstock. I think that's about the only safe way that you could approach that, a thicker paper.
Yeah. Because if you wanted to do, the other option, and this as soon as I heard somebody say they were doing an all metal comic, the only way I thought of it was that each page would have to have 2 hinge things in different locations to a point where, when all the pages were together, they formed a spine, and then you just run a rod through it, tap it down, and there you go. You can flip it all the way around. It's an all-metal comic.
I don't know how people. I just don't even know. It'd be so expensive to even try to produce a book like that. I can't even imagine. You're talking easily $100 just to produce it. What I mean, per book, and then you're going to charge what $300 to $500 just to try to make some money back off of it. I mean, that'd be crazy. Yeah, I don't envy anybody that's taken up that particular adventure. We've also got a store set, so it's $700 for a store exclusive, and that's 70 copies of the book. 70 copies of the book. I think there you go at the bottom. So you get 100 copies of the book. 100 copies of the book. And then you get the art as well, the original art with that. So, pretty cool stuff. I'm enjoying.
So if you get the retailer exclusive, that's where the original art comes in.
No, this particular original art is right above it with the April Rain. No, what I mean when we do original art for a store for our exclusives, we do an art specifically for you. Like we get one of our artists to do a cover just for you.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
So, and the coolest part about that is the price that we're offering that. When you look at a normal cover costing between $300 to $500, you're getting your own specific cover by one of my artists, and then you're also getting 100 copies of the book, at retail, half a retail,
Yeah.
So then you're selling the book for $15 a piece, So, I mean, you get a lot for that $700. I mean, and then it's got your logo on the back of the book. There's a thank you page for it and all kinds of other cool stuff in there that says, hey, look, thanks to our fans that shop at XX and X, comic store. This is our exclusive cover. We're only running 100 of them, and then you've also got the art to sell with it. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, that's absolutely very cool. I would. Do you validate that they're a retailer when you pull that one out? Because
we do validate that they're retailers. Most of the time, in my other IPs, we just get them to call us on the phone, verify what their business and whatnot, and that's how we do it. But yeah, that's normally a pretty good tier for us.
So, are you looking at this as being an ongoing series, or is this
absolutely
okay? So it's going to be multiple arcs.
Yeah, I've got six current issues with our editor right now. So, or scripts with our editor. So I'm excited about it to see what he wants to do with it. And then, like I said, my other books are running right now as well. So you get this book 4 times a year is how it would drop.
So every quarter. Okay. The campaign's at the perfect place to end, by the way. It's at 69 backers.
That's so funny. That is the perfect spot to end.
I don't know how many it had when we started because Kickstarter refreshes automatically.
Yeah, let's see. Hold on. I think we were at 68. So let's see. Yeah, we were at 68 when we started. So that's awesome.
In that case, we have it went up during the show, and when that happens, we take the credit for it.
There you go. Take the credit, my friend. Take the credit. You've earned it.
This is our it's our shake and bake moment.
It's shake and bake, and I help.
I love it.
So somebody in our chat, we appreciate you getting out there and getting behind the project here. We always makes us feel like we're being useful if we're helping the people on the show do more than just get the word out, but actually see financial returns on something.
For sure. It's an incredible thing. The amount of people that have come out, like we funded in under 25 minutes, and it was awesome to me. I still feel like I'm still new to this industry. 8 months is not a long time. You know what I mean? I've been selling books for 16 years, but to put out a book on my own, we started last October. So, I mean, we're coming up on a year now, and it's been awesome, man. It's been really cool to see the responses to what people, think about the books and stuff. With BGD though, I think it was my other books could be considered niche books. I think BGD has something for everyone that they could enjoy. It's aside from the babes and all that jazz, there's the action, there's the suspense, there's the stories and stuff going on. Like I said, I've got a serial killer that we're writing right now that's going to be around for a few issues. I've got a kidnapper that's going to be around for a little bit. I've got terrorists that we're writing. There's all kinds of stuff because, like I said,
it's a very busy strip club.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a metropolis, so you're not always going to be in the piece of tail. You're not always going to follow that group of people. So you may 6 months down the line, we may have an event happen and you be behind another character following what they're doing through the events of what's happening and whatnot. We've got a detective called, her name is Starling. And I wonder if you guys know where that comes from for sure, right? Come on now.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to leave you homework on that one.
It's evading.
Starling is an awesome character. But we'll get behind her character and deal with things she deals with as a detective in Steno City, which is, like I said, is not the greatest side of town. So we'll be following her adventures and what she's got going on. we're following the gang battles that are going on between the different groups and stuff like that. It's a very alive, and that's what we've been trying to create with this, is a world that doesn't just focalize on this group of people. This is who you're introduced to in the beginning. These are the people you get to follow.
So do you have in this world, do you have like dinosaur on dinosaur lines drawn where like, he's a filthy brontosaur, or
I mean, I'm sure I haven't really. I've really flushed out the gnarlier versions of those things. You know what I'm saying? The racial tension between the Saurians and humans, I flushed out. There's a really nasty term for humans that like Saurian males in the book, and they're called scale riders. There's all different kinds of hatred in the book, but at the same time, you're trying to find those peaceful places and those happy moments. Not every comic book is happy, but at the same time, you have to have moments of peace and tranquility as well. You can't always be like beating it up. You got to have those break periods. And I think Piece of Tale is a fun place to do that.
Now, do your pteranodons fly?
So they do.
Wow. So that totally changes the dynamics of a society.
Right, but they have to have a license to fly. So
that'd be like saying you have to have a license to walk.
I agree. But at the same time, there are people that feel like, well, they can do this and we can't. And that's a part of it. One of those things that why should you be allowed to do it and I can't? So it's interesting. It's one of those things that you're like, man, all these things that we can't talk about, we bring up in here because it's interesting, to see people's reactions, how they feel about things without judgment. You can read about these dark, debates and stuff in a world that's not unlike your own, but in a way it can show you cool things and make you maybe see things from another perspective. There's no bias in the book. That's what the most fun part is. Whether you're into the AI thing, you think it's real or anything, you're not judged by us as the writers or the readers, but there are characters that are out to chase down those people. There's a religious cult in the book. There's all kinds of different things. And it's, like I said, it's probably my most ambitious project yet, to be honest with you.
Well, tell us about your other projects while you're here. Of course, you get the 2 other IPs that you've talked about under your imprint. So
I have The Listener, and The Listener was the first book I put out. We just sent issue 3 to print. It's about it's loosely based on my Uncle Les, who was a Native American Green Beret. And what he gets in, we took his stories after he passed, and I didn't want people to forget him, so I started putting them out. And then I was like, well, people are desensitized, so I wanted to give them things to bring them in. You know what I mean? Just gore and stuff in Action Comics wasn't going to do it. So I brought in theology and I created The Listener. It's about a character that inherits the ability to see and interact with the dead and gods and demons and what have you. And he's grown up with it, didn't believe in it, thought it was nonsense, watched his father fight alcoholism. There are a lot of nuances to the real world in this book as well, like what Native Americans dealt with alcoholism, how they were treated when they joined the military, all kinds of things like that. But then we start getting into the, theological stuff about it. Like, are we talking about Native American gods? Are we talking about Celtic gods? Where are we going right now? Like in the beginning, the first 5 issues there in China pushing back in World War II, pushing back Japanese insurgents. So you start seeing these Japanese spirits and Chinese spirits and Yao Gai, which are like animal spirits and stuff like that. You see them as you're going through it. Really, really dark, fun stuff though. Like if you're interested in theology, like my book's probably one of the few places you could see Christ and Zeus having a conversation. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to ever like focus anyone out. So it was like, well, if we're going to talk about Native American beliefs, we have to talk about everybody's, you know what I mean? And in our world, all the belief systems exist. And it's just a very fine thing. Like it's like the paper thin veil that separates our world from their world. The fact that Lucifer and Hades hang out, You know what I mean? They're buddies and whatnot.
Of course it would be, yeah.
You know, but then they have a falling out because Lilith gets involved with Hades and whatnot, and Lucifer's not having it, so he kicks her out of hell, and all kinds of other stuff like that gets involved. But there's another side to the listener, which is our book Greed, and Greed is a much lighter take on the series, but it's from the viewpoint of a 10-year-old kid in modern day America. You know, so it's interesting, you know, because he meets his monster under the bed, and the monster under his bed's not the greatest guy in the world. You know, it's like that movie Little Monsters with Fred Savage.
Yep.
If, you know, Howie Mandel was like a real, you know, not good dude. You know, that's basically our book. You know, he's, you know, getting him involved in all kinds of stuff, but there's so much that's something I do. A lot of the stuff is under layers. You know, if you're paying attention, if you're reading close enough, I'm not talking about skipping, you know, panels or skipping bubbles because you're just looking at panels or anything. You can do that and enjoy all my books because it's easy to read by looking at the panels. But if you go into it deeper, you get all these really cool nuances to it. Like, who is the monster under the bed really? You know what I mean? What is he doing here? Why can the kid see the monster under the bed? You know, why can he see the Minotaur demon that we introduced in the first book? There's all kinds of things like that going on.
You said it's a different side to the listener. Are they coexisting in the same world? I mean,
Absolutely.
obviously it's decades apart, but
Yeah, I mean, it's the same world decades apart. You have Cade and Oz in Greed, and then you have Addie, Nostos, and Guy in the listener. But the listener doesn't age like a normal human being ages. You know, there's reasons behind that. Eventually, you start seeing characters from the listener and from Greed swapping in and out between each book. And we write it in a way, though, that you don't have to read both if that's not one or the other is not your style. You know, you can still enjoy the main story for the book. It's not unlike X-Men. I think X-Men made it really complicated. You know, you had so many different runs going on at the same time. I didn't want that. I wanted clear stories that if you wanted more, you could go over here and check this out and get a little bit more backstory. You know what I mean? Because the listener is behind Greed because it's in the past. So things are happening and they have an effect on what happens in Greed.
it sounds kind of like ancillary stories that could orbit American gods in some sort of a way.
Absolutely. For sure. That makes perfect sense.
All right. So those are already out, and they can. Where can people get those books at? If not at the weekend,
www.thelistener.xyz. Books 1 and 2 are on there now, whereas I have to add Greed and book 3 of the listener because they both literally just came out within a month of each other, so we have to add them to the website. But yeah, that's where you can get them. www.thelistener.xyz. And it's a lot of fun, guys. Greed is, I mean, we've had awesome guys work on these books, from, Frank Forty to Mike DeBalfo to, there's just a plethora of awesome folks they're putting these books together. And I couldn't be happier with the teams we're working with, especially with the content they're putting out. It's just a lot of fun.
You're throwing out names that I know, so
Yeah.
that gives me mental pictures in my head that weren't there before.
Right on.
All right, so folks, there are 18 days left to go before this Kickstarter is done. Are you Kickstarter exclusive? Do you do Kickstarter and then carry over to Indiegogo?
Earlier I mentioned I don't dip my toe into things I don't know anything about. You know what I mean? And news and everything. Eventually, I did Indiegogo one time. I did it after my campaign on Kickstarter last year. But I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea what was going on with Indiegogo. So I think my newfound amazing marketing team is going to put me in Indiegogo before long. I'm excited about it. They said that that's where I should be. So I guess I'm going to continue doing Kickstarter and then Indiegogo afterward.
Yeah, it's a different crowd, and it's a different marketing approach. But other than that, as a customer, I prefer it.
Right on.
Because when I give them my money, they actually take it.
Yeah, I've had a lot of issues with that. Like, it's like normally I only have like one drop backer, you know what I mean, in my campaigns. But it's at the same time, it's like, you have to wait So my thing is, I'm really grateful that all my books are done. They're all done. You're going to get them. Like as soon as I normally do PDFs with my books. This is my first campaign I've not offered a PDF on.
I noticed.
And that's because it's a totally rad book, and they don't do PDFs. So when I asked the publisher, he was like, if you want to, down the road, go ahead and do one, but I wouldn't do one for the first book because, whatever. So I didn't. But I'll say this, when you order a physical copy of BGD, you will get a PDF of BGD the day that all the money goes through. As soon as it all comes through, you guys get a PDF that day. I send out an email, I blind tag everybody, and I put a link in there. And that's something I think a lot of people have had a hard time with, is links, instead of just having a download. You know what I mean? But everything comes out my Google Drive, for PDF backers. So you guys will all get an awesome link, man. And that costs you nothing. That comes with the whatever you bought. You know what I mean? You don't have to pay extra for that. So because I'm of the opinion that if you paid for a book, you want to read it. You don't want to wait a month to get it, 2 months.
Oh, sure.
You want to read it. So everybody gets a PDF.
It's also something where in the future, if you do get to do the PDF option, we talked about the international buyers. A lot of times they'll go for that because that shipping charges.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
We also have viewers in our chat regularly who don't have space for any more comics, or don't have a house to put comics in because they're working out of a tent in the tundra on the pipeline.
I love that. I had a gentleman today reach out to me, and he was like, "Hey, look, I don't have room for physical books," and I was like, "I totally understand that." And I am so open to exceptions for people that, that reach out and let us know, hey, look, this is how we'd like to do it. Because I'm for everybody getting it, any way I can get it to you, so that's the way we're viewing it. But we found that when I add PDFs, and this was, us all sitting down and talking about it, I sell a ton of PDFs. Like my PDF sales are through the roof versus my physical sales. But I only charge $5 for a PDF, and I normally I also sell what I call my library. I sell my library books for $10 to $12 PDF. That's all my books. You know what I mean? So it's like it becomes so much cheaper that way, that I'm trying to learn to market better, because it doesn't help me to do it.
You got that underpriced when you're selling a whole library for $10.
Right. So I'm like I said, I'm still, as far along as I am, I'm only 8 months in. You know what I mean? And it's great, and I love that. But I'm learning every day. People teach me every day, and I appreciate that. It's like a sponge. So I'm constantly trying to better my product, how I put my product out. But having it to you guys as soon as possible is my main goal, and it coming to you in a fashion that you can appreciate when you receive it.
All right. Well, yeah, everybody who's in crowdfunding is learning how to be their own comic book publisher, and their own comic book distributor, and their own comic book editor. You're doing it all now.
Yeah. So, for sure.
Well, yes, Dustin, thank you so much for bringing this to our show tonight.
For sure. Thank you.
Appreciate you coming on and sharing Babes, Gore, and Dinosaurs with us. Folks in the chat, and for those of you watching this on the replay, the link to this Kickstarter is right down there. Just, look underneath the video box. It's the very first thing. You could have clicked on it anytime during the stream. It would not have taken you away. It opens in a whole new box and all that. You still get to listen while you're throwing money at it, because somebody did. And we thank you for that. I'm not going to ask you to like the video, because if you don't like me, that's okay. But if you would share the video, that would be really appreciated. Get Dustin's work in front of more eyeballs. Share it with your social circles who weren't here. Say, hey, look at this guy I just saw. Check out his project. Yes, it will bring them to the video, but maybe they'll only be here for like a second because they just want to see the link and see the comic. So push it around, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's very much appreciated.
Yes. And as always, thanks for coming in. We don't have a show without you. And we always hope that you have